Alright, hey guys, Pax here, welcome back to another weekly meta report. This is the first weekly meta report for the Crimson Blaze meta, and this meta has slightly shifted from the past. Very similar, but at the same time, there's a lot of new contenders that emerged in this month. If you guys are new to my channel, really do consider if you like and subscribe. Really does help me out tremendously, especially as a small-time content creator. And without further ado, let's get right into the weekly meta report. So if this is your first weekly meta report on my channel, how these videos usually go, I'm going to be reviewing 2 tournaments, looking at a couple top performing decks from each. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to be using one of them in PvP to see how it performs. So for the first tournament, we're going to be going over the Pocket Mads number 13th tournament. Has a player count of 1,107, a lot of players. So this is the tournament right here. Before I get into the standings, I just want to quickly look at the metagame. So this kind of shows the most used decks as well as their win rate. So as you can see, first one right here, with 183 players, we have Hydreigon, Mega Absol, 54%. So it kind of shows, this is pretty good. It kind of shows that the previous meta is still very viable. So if you guys did heavily invest in Mega Rising, then yeah, you're going to see much success, especially once rank does come back. Currently, we do have the Emblem event. We shall see how that goes. Usually it's not that competitive. I mean, there's a lot of people just flat out conceding just to help people out. But yeah, 54%. That's a pretty good win rate overall. Second one, Mega Lopunny and Lucario, with a 46% win rate. This is a rather new deck. Lucario is a rather old, very good support. Mega Lopunny is new. That's pretty cool. I might as well look at this later on, but just going down the list. Mega Absol and Magnezone, 57%. So yeah, there's a lot of very good decks to invest in. Very fun. I mean, Mega Absol and Magnezone, I feel like it's a pretty good combo. Mega Absol acting as kind of like disruption, especially towards the middle to late game. Magnezone can also sweep, as well as be also dominating in the early game, especially with the addition of Clement. But yeah, it's a little glimpse. You guys can take a screenshot. Also, I'm using the website play.limitless TCG. The link to that website will be in the description if you want to check it out. But all right, let's look at the standings. So first place, the winner is Game Prodigy 88 using a Mega Altaria Indeedee deck. This combo is absolutely insane. So might as well look at it. Yeah, this deck is very similar to, very similar to earlier decks that we've seen from the previous month. Specifically with Sableye, I feel like that's kind of like the first renditions of this Mega Altaria meta. It's using Sableye kind of to counteract Oricorio, so pretty good. That's essentially what this guy's doing. We also have Non-EX Altaria. Okay, interesting. So we have Non-EX Altaria acting very much similar, again, to kind of counteract Oricorio. Does 80 damage max if your whole bench is built, so you can get some good value. And looking at this deck, you can definitely go for a 1-1-3 strat. So you could either lead with Altaria, let's eventually get into Altaria, it's Non-EX version, or Sableye, or Jirachi, or even Shingling. Again, Shingling, just amazing disruption. One of the best cards they added in Mega Rising, in my opinion. So you can either lead with them, eventually, once it gets knocked out, sub in another Non-EX. Once that Non-EX gets taken out, sub in Mega Altaria, doing 130 damage. Very good, 150 with type advantage. We got a bit of hand disruption with red card. Also Copycat, again, an amazing combo is Copycatting. And then afterwards, red carding, this, yeah, amazing pairing. Essentially using your opponent's hand against them and then messing them up. Also Giovanni, so you could do 160, very interesting. Giovanni might be used to counteract cards such as, this, I'm just gonna pull it up right here. So this is Giovanni, yeah. There is, what's his name, Ariados? Ariados does have 90 HP, so that could be ran to primarily counteract that, because I mean, Altaria does 80 damage, plus Giovanni does 90 damage, so could definitely help you out and mess up your opponent. We'll go over Whimsicott Ex and Ariados later on. I did make a deck showcase. I really do suggest checking it out because it's a lot of fun. Like, yeah, getting out with that deck is so easy. Just evolving into your stage 1s. Indeedee is a support, of course. Yep, Indeedee is a very good go-to support. Also able to do a bit of damage with Psychic. But yeah, I'm not going to really go that in-depth with this deck because you've probably already seen this. This deck is very similar to the previous month. I mean, all these cards are also from the previous month, so yeah, also Rocky Helmet to add a bit more damage, just chipping your opponent. But yeah, very straightforward. And then looking at the matches, let's look at this. So this guy lost once, tied once, lost once. Lost against Hydreigon Mega Absol. This deck is insane, man. I mean, looking again at the meta deck, I'm just going to pull it up again. Yeah, very high win rate. And last rank to get into Master Ball, I use this deck. I use Mega Absol Hydreigon because you get so much value with Hydreigon, man. It's like, it's very hard, especially if you get good RNG and then you have Hydreigon in your active. It's hard for your opponent to compete, and then once that Hydreigon gets taken out, sub in another one, and eventually you sub into Mega Absol and just sweep your opponent. Yeah, your opponent really can't do much. Also, again, Mega Absol is amazing, just kind of getting rid of very win condition trainer cards such as Cyrus and even Sabrina. That's pretty good. Also Mars, yeah. So yeah, looking at this deck, very straightforward. Again, not going to really go in depth, but yeah, I mean, ideally you want to kind of lead with either Dino or Absol. The one I use had Shingling. You can also do that because that's pretty good as well. Just to mess up your opponent as well as kind of like manage your energy a lot more sufficiently. But even then, I mean, this deck doesn't really require much energy. I mean, Hydreigon essentially only needs 1 energy. Mega Absol needs 2, not that hard to feed. Indeedee's here essentially just to be a support, healing 20, not being able to attack. I'm pretty sure, unless my opponent's only using Pure Darkness, and Indeedee's Pure Psychic. So yeah, this is rather interesting because comparing both decks, this is the Winrate tournament and lost against this deck. Okay, yeah. So this deck has Shingling, which could disrupt this deck, but I'm assuming it came down to this better RNG. Again, just dealing with 2 Hydreigons is just a nightmare, man. Especially if you can't set up and just get Mega Altaria out as fast as possible. Also, depending on the battle, placing Indeedee down or even Mega Absol might not be necessary because again, for one thing, Mega Absol is Mega. So, I mean, if your opponent does take it out, then they win. And then Indeedee, good support, but again, could definitely lose you the game, especially if your opponent Cyruses and then just beats up this helpless EX support. So, yeah, I can very much see how this deck ended up winning. But nevertheless, I mean, this guy definitely won the tournament. And looking at this, definitely did win against another Hydreigon deck. Different guy, yeah, but still, nevertheless, a very good deck. I mean, this guy, looking at it, 12 wins, 2 losses. So yeah, man, you get, it's very fun, man. This deck is very just hard to go up against, but when you're playing it, it's just rather chill. In my opinion, personally, if you want a deck to climb ranked, I'd invest in a Hydreigon Absol deck. Yeah, because currently, I mean, it's just amazing. We shall see in the future, but for now, yeah, just amazing investment overall. I feel like I talked about Mega Absol a lot, but yeah, Mega Altaria, still amazing, especially with, this deck didn't use Serena, but there is Serena, keep in mind. Just add a bit more consistency, but doesn't really see much usage. Like, we shall see. I mean, this card could be better, especially later in later months. But essentially, this card, if you guys don't know, this card allows you to get a random Mega Evolution Pokemon from your deck. So essentially, kind of like a Mega Pokeball, per se. But of course, it's a supporter card. But yeah, that was number 1. Going down to number 2, by Zozo89, we have a Whimsicott Ariados deck. Again, this deck is a ton of fun. Oh boy, yeah. I used a very similar deck for my deck showcase. I didn't have a Giovanni. I had something else. This is the deck that I used. So instead of Giovanni, I had Sabrina. Sabrina can definitely help you out, especially towards the late game. I still highly suggest checking out my deck showcase because I had a ton of fun using this. Yeah, man, just getting Whimsicott out is a lot of fun. And looking at the deck, this deck specifically, slightly different for me. I had Fermosa. This guy's using Kartana. So ideally for this deck, you want to lead with either Kartana or even Cottonee, especially if you're going second. If you're going second, lead with Cottonee. Interesting, only using 1 copy as well. Of course, mine had more Whimsicott EX prominence, but ideally for this deck, you kind of want to lead with either Kartana and then eventually sub into Whimsicott, or especially if you're going second, lead with Cottonee, feed Cottonee, your next turn evolve into Whimsicott, and just start attacking. And Whimsicott, this card is very dependent on your opponent's retreat cost. So looking at this, Whimsicott, HP 140, stage 1, attack Grass Knot, 40 base damage. This attack does 30 more damage for each energy in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. Yeah, so in other words, this base damage, let's say like your opponent has a retreat cost, like it's your opponent's Pokemon has a retreat cost of 1. You are doing 70 damage, retreat cost of 2, 100, 3, 130, 4, 160. And that's just the base damage, keep in mind, because looking at this deck, we have Ariados. Yeah. This card is an amazing support, especially specifically for Whimsicott, because as you can see from the ability, Trap Territory, your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost is 1 more. In other words, looking once again at Whimsicott EX, if your opponent has a retreat cost of 1 with Ariados buff, you are doing 100 damage. If you have 2 Ariados out, because it does stack, you are doing 130. And that's just from 1 retreat energy, okay? So, and looking at the current meta, I mean, we shall see how prominent they will be, but I don't think Mega Venusaur was that prominent in this tournament. But looking at Mega Venusaur, right here, retreat cost of 4. So base damage, Whimsicott EX is doing 160 damage. Yeah, and then plus 1 Ariados, you are doing 190, plus another 210. So it's kind of insane, and I'm just kind of curious. Let's look at the old Charizard EX. I'm pretty sure it has 180 HP. Yeah, able to Actually, only 2 retreat costs, but nevertheless, I mean, with the buffs, you're doing 160 damage with Ariados, I believe. So yeah, Whimsicott EX has a lot of potential. Requires a bit of build up. Again, you want to kind of build up your bench. So I mean, going against Squeak and Greninja, you might struggle, especially if your opponent starts chipping the Ariados in your bench. Yeah, which does kind of suck because of course, once they take out a bench Pokemon of yours, then once they take out Whimsicott, it's GG. So yeah, ideally for this deck, it's very good for decks aside from Squeak and Greninja. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of setup again, but nevertheless, very easy to set up. Very easy to set up, primarily because of Quick Grow Extract. If you guys don't know, this card is essentially an evolution card. Treat it as an evolution card. So let's say you have a Spinarak or Cottonee on the field. Your next turn, you pull Quick Grow Extract. You can evolve into either Whimsicott EX or Ariados using Quick Grow. Yeah, if your opponent, or if your evolution Pokemon is in your deck, you can use Quick Grow. And if it's not, then you might as well, I mean, use just evolve flat out. So you can get a lot of value. This card is amazing because it just adds more consistency. So you can look at this kind of like this deck has 4 copies, or actually 3 copies of Whimsicott and 4 copies of Ariados. Yeah, overall it's very good because I mean, for one thing, you're getting your Pokemon out very fast and consistently. And on top of that, you are thinning the deck out. So you're removing, let's say like Whimsicott or Ariados from your deck, making it more likely that you can get the supporter cards that you need. And looking at the supporter cards, Lucia, amazing support to get either Spinarak or Cottonee out. Of course, not Cortana because it only applies to 50 HP or lower. Copycat, just to help if you get a pretty bad hand. Mars, yeah, towards the late game, could definitely just help you out. Cyrus, much expected. Sabrina, yeah, could help you out either early game or even late game. Giovanni, just to do a bit more damage. Yeah, this deck is really deviating from the norm with that one Pokeball. But again, I mean, looking at this, it's not really that needed. I mean, it's already very consistent with Copycat, Quick Grow Extract, and Lucia. So does kind of make sense, but it does feel kind of weird just running one Pokeball. But yeah, overall, I mean, I've used this deck in my deck showcase. I usually get all the cards I need my second turn. Like whether that's like Whimsicott EX, just leading the active, Ariados, Pheromosa, because of Quick Grow Extract for most part. Leaf Cape as well, just to support your grass Pokemon, because Whimsicott EX is rather frail. I mean, 140 HP, could get one-shotted by like something like Blaziken, Mega Blaziken EX, so that Leaf Cape could end up helping you out in the long run. And yeah, that's a deck. Looking at the matches. Okay, so this deck lost 3 times, okay? Lost against, interesting, Mega Lopunny EX Lucario. I might as well look at this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this deck is very interesting. So ideally for this deck, you kind of want to lead with either Tyrogue or Berniri and eventually sub in Mega Lopunny EX. This deck is not running Serena. Interesting, because Serena can definitely help you out, especially getting Mega Lopunny out. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the grand scheme of things, there are much better supporter cards that could benefit you out a lot more. I mean, May could definitely is a lot better than Serena in a sense, because it covers a wider area of getting cards, like your Pokemon cards, not just Mega cards. So yeah, we also have Will, just add a bit of consistency with Mega Lopunny, because keep in mind, if you guys don't know, Mega Lopunny, this card is a spiritual successor of Marowak EX. Can't spell. Marowak EX, HP 140. This card can do 160 damage, but you have to get 2 heads to do that. And if you get all tails, then you do 0 damage. Looking at Mega Lopunny, sure, you can do the same thing. If you get 2 tails, you do 0 damage, but your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused. So you're confusing your opponent's active Pokemon regardless. So you can get a lot of value with that. And max damage, you can do 180, which is a ton, yeah. And yeah, this deck does run Will. Just add more consistency, making sure that you are guaranteed to do 90 damage. Tyrogue's amazing just for the early game, especially if you go first. So you could lead with Tyrogue, have Berniri in your bench, and then slowly get built. Once Mega Lopunny is out, sub Mega Lopunny in, and just sweep your opponent. And then Lucario right here, still reeling from his back injury, the fighting coach himself. You ideally want to have this guy in your bench and as a support, because if you guys don't know, the main draw for this card is that if this guy is out, your active fighting Pokemon do plus 20 damage. So once again, looking at Lopunny, max damage, if you have 2 non-EX Lucarios out, you are doing 220 damage, 240 with type advantage. So yeah, just absolute monster. But again, it's conflict dependent. If anything, if you do Will, then you are guaranteed to do 130 damage with 2 Lucarios out. And also with Lucario, keep in mind, I mean, it is a non-EX, so it is in this deck, in this case, an Oricorio counter. Tyrogue can counter as well. doing 40 damage with type advantage. And yeah, overall, this deck is a ton of fun. I feel like a lot of people slept in Mega Lopunny. I was actually talking to my friend recently, and he was like, oh, people say that they suck. Lopunny is horrible. And I'm like, just give them a try. Give him a try. Because this Pokemon is super fun to use. Granted, it is coin flip dependent. So, I mean, could definitely lose you the game, but you're also confusing your opponent. So keep that in mind. Your opponent now has to coin flip, so it could definitely help you out a ton. In my deck showcase, it definitely did. I would do no damage when attacking with Mega Lopunny. My opponent's active Pokemon is confused. Their next turn, they fail the confusion, and we just forget that turn ever happened. Yeah, so a ton of fun, a bit of chaos, but I mean, that's much expected. That's very, at least in casual battle, I don't mind. Maybe in ranked, this card might cause you to just pull your hairs out, but yeah, nevertheless, a very fun deck overall. Going back to Whimsicott Ex, lost against Magnezone Heliolisk. Yeah, very toxic matchup. I might make a deck showcase using this deck in the near future. Most likely next year, but next year is like what, in like 9 days from now? Pure non-EXs. So this kind of makes sense. I mean, I feel like for this deck right here, Whimsicott Ex, you're getting most value going against Mega EXs and EXs. Against non-EXs, it does get kind of difficult, especially if you're because yeah, for non-EXs you can play very laid back, just kind of go for, of course, a 1-1-1 strat, whereas for this deck you could go for a 1-1-2 strat, but most likely you might be forced to go for a 1-3 strat or even a 2-1 strat. But yeah, and also this deck is running Oricorio. Keep in mind, I mean, Kartana and Ariados could counter Oricorio, but nevertheless still going to be 2-hit KOing, and this deck's not running PC Lady, but even then, I mean, it is a non-EX deck. But yeah, overall, this deck ultimately lost to #1 player, of course, kind of showing how dominating that deck is. And just comparing each deck side by side, I'm just gonna quickly, briefly look at this. They're very similar because they're very fast paced. And I feel like for this, in this battle, this deck outsped this deck purely because they got better RNG. But overall, I mean, in this deck, you can just start attacking with Mega Altaria your second turn. Same thing with this, with Whimsicott. Whimsicott EX does 130 damage to Mega Altaria with max Ariados buff. Something to note. But even then, I mean, this deck's only running 1 copy. So, I mean, that could have hindered them in the long run. Because for my deck showcase, I set up for Whimsicott EX. Once that Whimsicott EX got knocked out, I would summon another copy and then hopefully sweep by then. Because, I mean, it really depends on my opponent's deck. If they're running Sweeping Greninja, I'm essentially screwed, especially if they do Cyrus. But overall, still, a ton of fun, a ton of consistency. And I kind of like the route that Grass type is going. Like, Whimsicott EX is good. Could get phased out next month, we shall see. But Quicker Extract, I feel like might be a must run. Most likely will be a must run for Grass type. You get so much value with this. Granted, it is an item card, so Chingling stocks are going up. But yeah, that's the Whimsicott EX / Ariados deck. And yeah, that was the Pokémon tournament. Overall, very similar to the previous month, but a little bit of this new faces, of course, with Whimsicott EX. It's kind of crazy because Whimsicott came out, keep in mind, last month, but it was just so hard. I feel like a lot of people kind of like gloss over the card. They're like, oh, it's not that good. Has potential, but it's not really there yet. And in this meta, getting better, and you never know. Maybe next month they add more Whimsicott EX buffs. It might be very similar to like Solgaleo. Like when Solgaleo first came out, he was good, but then they added other cards such as I'm blanking on the name. Yeah, they added Shiinotic, and then eventually they added Sylveon EX, which did help with consistency and stuff like that. So we might see something similar with Whimsicott EX, but it's really hard to tell. And yeah, that's the Pokémon tournament. Next tournament we're going to be going over is the Pocket Legends League number 48 tournament. And looking at how many players there are 226, still a substantial amount. Not as much as, of course, 1,000, but still nevertheless a pretty decent sample size. Looking at the metagame, Hydreigon Absol. Once again, 48% win rate. Invest in this deck. Like, it's very good. But again, very toxic to go up against, and it just feels so nice. Just going for a 1-1-3 strat, just leading with Hydreigons, and just eventually just bullying your opponent, making them essentially just quit, lock their phone, and just like go on a walk and just touch grass. Play Pokemon Go, if anything. Switch to Pokemon Go, yes. 32 players. Going down on the list, we have Mega Lopunny EX Lucario, again 45% win rate, very fun. And then Mega Altaria Greninja, interesting. This deck was also prominent in Pocket Mads. I think it got like number 3 or 4, something in the top 5, but I'll definitely go over that like in like 30 seconds. Very interesting to see. And Sweeping Greninja, 44%. So yeah, very prominent, 13 players. And if you're sick of Sweeping Greninja, I say this in every video, I mentioned them. They're here to stay for at least a while. I feel like slowly getting phased out, but we shall see. We shall see how Dina feels. I mean, they can definitely add cards that kind of counter this pairing, but it really depends on them and how they kind of want to balance the game. But yeah, standings wise, yeah, I said I'll go over this deck, but first of all, I'm going to go over number 1, made by Eku, is a Magnezone Mega Absol EX deck. So I briefly went over this deck. I don't think it's the same person. It looks very similar. It has Darkrai EX, so yeah, also Chingling. So this deck is rather interesting. Let's just look over here. I'm assuming, yeah, running pure darkness because Magneton is self-supporting. You don't need lightning energy to make this guy work because, of course, if you guys don't know, this guy has been out since this game has been out. So ability-wise, Volt Charge, you basically generate 1 lightning energy each turn. So keep that in mind. And yeah, this is not like Darkrai, or not Darkrai. It's not like Giratina EX where like it ends your turn. You just do it and it's there. Yeah, so getting a ton of value. And then looking at the deck, I feel like for this deck, you want to lead with Chingling, have Magnemite in your bench, as well as most likely Darkrai EX or even Mega Absol. I feel like the safer choice is, of course, Darkrai EX. Have Chingling attack a couple of turns, also feeding Darkrai EX to do a bit of passive damage, while also evolving into Magneton. And then once Chingling does get knocked out, sub into Magnezone. This is the new Magnezone right here. Came out recently. It's the current pack, yeah. Has HP 130 stage 2, and it's debatably better than the old Magnezone. Might as well pull it up just for reference. So this is the old Magnezone right here. Does 110 damage. After attacking, you discard a lightning energy. Could get some good value, but this guy might be more disruptive because it does 20 less damage, yeah. But after attacking during your opponent's next turn, if the defending Pokemon tries to use an attack, your opponent flips a coin. If tails, the attack doesn't happen. So a lot of coin flips. Once again, leaning into the coin flips, but that one attack could definitely just save you the game. Could be more beneficial than doing plus 20 more damage. Also keep in mind, this card doesn't discard energy, so you can just keep on feeding Darkrai EX. And then looking at this, Darkrai EX's ability does 20 damage, paired with Magnezone's attack, does 110. So essentially, you are doing the same damage as Magnezone, but being more disruptive. And keep in mind, one kind of like tip here, the attack ability only works against the Pokemon that this card attacks. So let's say you have this Pokemon in your active, your opponent has a Chingling in their active, you knock out that Chingling, your opponent subs in, I don't know, like Mega Altaria. That Mega Altaria can attack. It only applies to the Pokemon this card does damage to. Because at first when I saw that, I was kind of confused. It's like, wait a minute, something's up. But I feel like they could have definitely been more specific. I feel like they could have worded this better. I mean, it does say defending Pokemon, as in the Pokemon that this card attacks. But yeah, it's still kind of confusing. I feel like it will catch people off guard the first time they use them. But overall, I feel like this is a very good example of power creep because this Magnezone alone does a lot of damage, but this guy is more disruptive. So I mean, so you can kind of debate like which one is better. I mean, this Magnezone might be better if that 20 damage does matter more to you. But this guy overall is more disruptive and requires a bit of RNG to be very disruptive as well with the coin flip. And that coin flip can definitely just cause your opponent migraines, either you or your opponent. Most likely your opponent. Overall, a ton of fun. And looking at the deck overall, I talked a lot about Magnezone, but of course, Darkrai EX. Once Magnezone does get knocked out, you can just sub in Darkrai EX in a sweep, and you can go for a 1-1-2 strat. So Magnezone gets knocked out, sub in another Magnezone, that one gets knocked out, the Darkrai EX, just sweep in. And we also have Mega Absol, again, kind of being primarily support. I feel like you ideally want to lead with Darkrai EX for the most part. And depending on the scenario, I mean, depending on RNG, you could lead with Mega Absol and just be very disruptive, just taking out your opponent's Cyruses, making sure they can't just bully you, essentially. And we also have Clamon here. This guy is a specific support to Magneton, essentially a Pokeball in supporter form, because as you can see, put 2 random cards from among Magneton, Heliolisk, and Clemon's backpack from your deck into your hand. And looking at the deck, only running Magneton. No backpack, no Heliolisk. Very hard to say that name. So yeah, just adding more to consistency, getting Magneton out. And then other cards, Copycat, Professor's Research, Pokeball, Lucia. So that's pretty good. You could Lucia your first turn, and then the turn after that, Clement, and just have 2 Magnetons in your bench. So yeah, just getting a ton of value overall. Red card to add a bit of disruption again with the Copycat pairing. Yeah, that's the deck. Looking at the matches, lost 1 time, of course. Lost against Mega Altaria Greninja. Interesting pairing, and it kind of makes sense because this deck could bully your backline. Yeah, I mean, that's this whole thing. And then in your backline, just looking at the backline, man, early game to mid game, you have Darkrai EX, and then once that guy gets knocked out, they knock out like either Chingling or Magnezone, then it's GG. So I'm pretty sure that's what happened in this deck. Looks very simple. There's not that many cards. But yeah, ideally for this deck, you want to lead with Chingling, eventually into Mega Altaria, or even Greninja, and then eventually sub into Mega Altaria. But yeah, 2 copies of Cyrus, of course. So Greninja Cyrus, an absolutely nasty combo. And of course, this deck has, let's see, 2 copies of Chingling. So Greninja's ability is 2-hit KOing that Chingling, just for existing. So yeah, something to note. I can definitely see why this deck eventually lost. Tied twice. I feel like this is looking at, I'm not going to go really that in depth just to save time, but looking at this, it might have been because of RNG. Yeah. That's very interesting. I'm pretty sure like both of them probably got pretty bad hands, and they just couldn't counter each other essentially. They kind of got into like a stalemate, and this deck eventually beats Mega Altaria Greninja. Let's see. Different player, but I'm assuming very similar deck. Yeah, it's the same deck, just shuffled around a bit. So it kind of shows that even against weakened Greninja, this deck right here can pop off. And yeah, that's a weekly meta report. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Overall, as you can see, the meta is very similar. Rather welcome additions with Magnezone and stuff like that. And looking at all the megas, like the prominent Mega Charizard Y, Mega Venusaur, as well as Mega Blastoise, they're very low on this list. So let's just pull this up. You might as well. Let's pull up the metagame, try to find it. All right, yeah, Mega Venusaur EX has a 29% win rate. Only 4 people used it, but that win rate is rather low. Yeah, that's pretty rough. Looking at the other ones, Mega Charizard Y, even lower with 18%. So yeah, people who hyped up these cards, it's really unfortunate because again, my friend this was really just creaming over Mega Charizard Y. He's like, this is the best card ever. This is so fun to use. And sure, I mean, in casual battle, you can get some good usage, but especially in competitive and like tournaments and ranked, yeah, it's just the build up is way too RNG dependent in my opinion. It requires a lot of cards and overall not worth it in my opinion. And then Blastoise, it's out of curiosity. No Blastoise. Damn. And I might as well just look at Pokémons as well. Just look at here. Pull up Charizard Y. Has much better. This one's paired with Entei. Much better win rate. So you can still make it work. 42 players, 42% win rate. And looking at Venusaur, much less players and a lower win rate. Yeah, and then Blastoise. Is there Blastoise? There's one with Greninja. 0% win rate. There was only one person and that person lost. They were trying something new, trying to be experimental, and overall it did not work. And yeah, to end the video off, I'm going to be using this deck in PvP and we'll see how it performs. All right, here we are in PvP battle. Going first, which, oh my gosh. This is like the best hand ever. What am I looking at? So we got 2 Magnemites, Darkrai, Chingling. Next turn we can just Clemon, get 2 Magnetons out, and we just pulled a Magnezone. Okay, GG. I could Clemon right now, but I'm gonna save it for next turn. I don't think my opponent is gonna red card or Mars me unless they have like a 6th sense. Unless they can feel that I'm just gonna absolutely get so much value next turn, I should be good. All right, all my opponent does is Giant Cape. Interesting. So Mega Absol can attack next turn, but looking at this, like my opponent really cannot compete because I Clemon, and just like that, Magneton. And then I can definitely go for a 1-1-3 strat right here. Like, yeah, getting a ton of value, doing Volt Charge, feed Darkrai, once again attacking with Chingling, being insane disruption. I'm pretty sure my opponent has at least 1 Pokeball in their hand. Hopefully they don't concede, because looking at this, they need to pull something out of their ass in order to win. Does Sabrina? Interesting. Okay, so that could be a bit disruptive, but nevertheless, I mean, we might as well do this. So Magneton will get knocked down, applying a bit of pressure as well, because this guy has to take out this Magneton, but it doesn't matter because we do have Magnezone. Opponent attacks, seeing what I'm cooking. Of course, we're moving Sabrina. Opponent does get a point, but overall, we should be good in the long run. Getting another Chingling doesn't really help us that much, but just like this, Volt Charge. And the cool thing about this Magnezone is that it does require 2 colorless, so we can just do this, do that, and just start attacking. So Mirror Shot. Next turn, my opponent has to coin flip in order to attack. Opponent subs into Tauros EX. Interesting. I wonder if this guy's running Elima. Damn, that's rough. But as you can see, my opponent's on the fence right now. They really don't know what they can do. And if I get a Cyrus, it might be GG next turn. Doesn't seem like it. We do get a Pokeball. I don't think this Pokeball will do much. I will get the Mega Absol, sure. But at this point, I might as well feed Darkrai and just once again just chill like this. So Darkrai doing chip damage, and again 90 plus 20 does 110. The same amount as the other non-EX Magnezone. Yeah, my opponent really can't do anything. I got such an amazing starting hand. You love to see this. You really do, but I feel bad for my opponent. Tauros does... Yeah, Tauros can't do anything. We got red card, doesn't really do much. But at this point, we might as well feed Mega Absol, 1 energy. Keep in mind, next turn Darkrai EX is built, and also Mega Absol, so I could lead with either of them. But at the same time, I mean, Magnezone, my opponent still has to knock out Magnezone, and at the very least, they are 2-hit KOing this non-EX. At the very least, because again, they have the coin flip, and if they mess that up, then it won't work. However, this turn, of course, as I mentioned earlier, Magnezone's attack ability only applies against the active that it attacks. In other words, this Mega Absol can attack Magnezone free of charge. My opponent looked at my hand, he was like, interesting. No Cyrus, that's good, but Cyrus is here. Yeah, he was kind of late, and it definitely worked out in our favor. Red card, kind of BMing, but yeah, as you can see, this deck has a lot of potential. It's very fun, and coin flip, again, a lot of RNG, and I don't know if the game needed that RNG, but nevertheless, I mean, it still works out. Yeah, Magnezone taking the dub. Might as well feed, it doesn't really matter, feed Darkrai EX, and just Cyrus. And I feel like one good thing about this Magnezone is that, again, compared to the other one, you don't have to keep feeding this guy energy. You can start feeding your bench, get your bench built, and then eventually attack with them. And that feels very good in the long run. Taking the dub, GG, just like that. And yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want more. Again, really does help me out tremendously, especially as a small-time content creator. And yeah, it's a video, and I'll see you guys on my next one. Peace.